Okay.
The thing's not running now, is it?
It is.
That was an adventure, and you put it that way. Some days were good, some days were bad, some kids were great, others were not controllable, and it was just, you don't know what the next day was going to bring. You couldn't say, oh, tomorrow is so-and-so, and I'll have a good day. Mm-hmm. Not given, you know. So, it was just a day-to-day adventure. Mm-hmm. Some of my kids I loved dearly. Would love to have kept them, you know. Mm-hmm. That's not something you get to do, is keep your foster kids. I'd say maybe 20, little less, because as some of them came to me and then their families got them back almost right away. There was one little girl Alice fell in love with, and she cried when that child left. They were just, and the kid was only about 9 years old, Alice maybe 14, 15. But she got along good with the kids, and some of them you fell in love with, you took an immediate liking to them, but some kids, their attitude was bad because their background wasn't too pleasing. They knew they weren't with mom, they weren't with their family, and I guess they thought the foster parents were villains, you know, and they were going to do something bad, but in time it worked out, or either they were gone. Mm-hmm. So.
Wow, so that's 20 kids, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think it'd be about that. Might not have been, but somewhere in the ballpark.
Mm-hmm. So how many years were you a foster parent then?
I'd say about 15, 20 years.
And that was on top of your other job, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So on top of that. At Columbus Middle School, and I was there maybe 10, 15 years. I worked for the board a total of like 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I was there, and that was the school I retired from.
What was that like?
Great. Had a lot of fun, good times there, and no pressures, and that means a lot on the job. Mm-hmm. I was only about 5 minutes by car away from home. So I could leave my house at 10 to 8 and be in my office at 8 o'clock. Sometimes I get up the nerve and leave maybe at 20 minutes to, and then go there and get coffee. And a lot of times they had donuts or little sweet pastries. I go there in time and get that, you know. Yeah, but it was a great job.
What did you usually do during the day?
During the day?
As a dean's secretary.
Well, it was, I kept records of all children that were suspended, you know, or, yeah, well, they were suspended, and then I had to type up suspension letters for every kid, make copies, mail them out, mail the copy home to the, mail the original to the parent. We put a copy on file. And sometimes there were 20 suspensions in a day. And talking about working your tail off.
Did you have to write about what they did?
Just it was a form letter. And you'd put down why the child was suspended: smoking, fighting, cutting class, you know, things like that. Oh, they'd pull fire alarms.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. That was the worst thing. Boy, that was bad, because you bring out the fire department.
Yeah.
Regardless, they had to come out and see.
And they weren't happy about that.
Oh, no. And if they could catch the bugger, I think his family got fined.
Oh, my gosh.
Because it cost a lot of money to bring that fire truck out and all those men, you know.
you've always lived in Pittsburgh, but you lived all over Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But you grew up in Homewood, right?
The Brushton area.
The Brushton area?
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like growing up in Brushton?
As I can remember, it was a lot of fun. My brother, my cousin, and I, one of my first cousins, we used to roam Homewood, the Homewood Brushton area. In the summertime, we would sell lemonade out on the street, and then we get our money. We go down the neighborhood somewhere to the bakery and buy donuts. That was a big adventure. My mother always let us have the lemons and the sugar, and made a pitcher and sat out on the side, just like you see in the movies the kids do, and sold lemonade. I can't remember how much we sold it for now. But it was, people bought from us, you know, be a hot day and they want something cold, so.
Yeah. Of course they did. Cute little kids.
Yeah.
On the sidewalk. How can you say no?
There you go.
So you also said that your parents were from Virginia.
Yes.
Okay.
My dad was from Lynchburg, Virginia. My mother was from Danville, Virginia, but they never met until they came here to Pittsburgh. They were close, their hometowns, but they never knew each other until they came here.
And how did they meet?
In church. They went to the same church and met in church, and then my dad went to another church and left, and then somehow or another they hooked up and they got married. And then my dad went to another church. He didn't care for that one he was in too much, so my mother stayed at her church and my dad went to his church, and we as kids grew up, we went to church with my dad. He would take us every Sunday to Sunday school and to church, and then sometimes there was something they called the Baptist Youth something. I should have got that straight, but you went in the evenings for like an extra Sunday school lesson, and we'd go there at night and then go home. It was nice. It was very informative. Most of what I know nowadays in touch with religion, I learned between Sunday school and this BYPU. It was Baptist Young People's blah, 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 blah.
Like a youth group or something
yes,
like that?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. So did most of the friends you had when you were younger, were they like from your church or your neighborhood or both?
They were from, I didn't know too many kids in my neighborhood because when I went home I stayed put. But they were from the church and my school.
Okay.
Most of the kids that lived in my neighborhood went to my school, so that made it nice. I wanted skates so bad. My mother said no, I was too young. She was afraid I'd fall and get hurt, so I kind of powdered around for a few days, and one day my grandfather came to visit and gave me a package, and I'm like, okay, and I opened it up, and here was a pair of roller skates. Well, I was the happiest kid in Pittsburgh, and I put them on and I skated, and my mother was like in awe because she didn't believe I could skate, you know, but I thought he was the greatest man in the world because he brought me something that I wanted.
Oh.
Yep. I had never forgotten it.
Oh, that's sweet. How old were you?
Maybe 6, 7. I was very young.
You don't have skates anymore, I imagine.
I don't what?
You don't have them anymore, I guess.
Oh, no.
No?
Somewhere down the line, my mother threw them out.
Oh.
They got worn out.
Right, yeah, you probably skated all the wheels off of them, huh?
I did. They got holes in them. They weren't the ball bearing kind that they made later, but they were kind of hollow in the middle, and they did wear out. You could see holes in them, and then I know my mother threw them out because they were dangerous, you know.
Was your grandfather a pretty important person growing up?
Yeah. He didn't live with us or anything, but he came around often to visit, and he was as I can remember him, he was a kind, gentle, loving creature. He wasn't loud and boisterous where he would scare little kids talking, you know, but he was very quiet, and I remember when he passed away, I thought the world was going to end. Yeah, my grandpa.
How old was he?
I really don't know. I think in his mid-60s. He wasn't old as compared to nowadays. They say old, you know.
Right.
Yeah. But all of my family members I have now outlived. Because most of them died in their 60s, early 70s, like that.
You said that one of the things that you would want to talk about was when your parents passed away.
Boy. I think basically my children pretty much know, because I talked about my parents all the time, still do. You know, when opportunity presents itself, I talk about them, because to me there couldn't have been any better parents. As far as loving and kind, my dad worked. He supported the family. My mother always wanted to work, but he told her, no, you stay home, keep house, watch the kids, you know. So I think it was until my dad got sick, he came down with something then that they called creeping paralysis. He couldn't walk good. In fact, he walked a lot like I walk now, but his was more of a shuffle. Yeah, and he was on a cane and couldn't get around good. They put him on crutches at first, but he didn't like the feel of the crutches under his arm, so he went to a cane. Yeah, but he was a hard-working man, and when he came down sick, then he let my mother get a job. They were in the midst of buying, excuse me, buying a home, and he didn't feel like he could keep the payments there, because they didn't have all this disability stuff then. You were just without. So she went to work then. She did a private family. And then she got on with the board. Did I say my dad was a custodian for the board? I don't know.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, he started out as a janitor and worked his way up to a custodian. And when he didn't pass, but when he got so he couldn't work, he was custodian at Peabody High School. And then when he got to the point where he couldn't work anymore, he let my mother go to work, and one day his big boss was talking to him about not being able to work, and he said, well, my wife is working for the family now. She does not private duty, but she kept house. I don't know how you call it.
Housekeeping?
Yes, I guess you call it that. Trying to make something of it that I guess is not. And he offered her a job with the board, cleaning. That's basically what she was doing. She made a lot more money. So that's what she did until the day she came down sick. So my father worked for the board, and my mother worked for the board, and I worked for the board, and I had a brother who worked for the board. We were like a Board of Education family.
Yeah, you were, weren't you?
There were only 4 of us, and all 4 of us worked for the board at one time or another.
Yeah. And what about your parents you remember that sticks out in your memory the most?
It couldn't have been any greater. My dad was a quiet gentleman. I think a lot of times I'm more like him than my mother, because my mother had a fiery temper. If you got her mad, she just drooped, you know. But Dad was sort of laid back, quiet, and he'd tell you off in due time. But he wasn't an argumentative man. He wasn't a fighting man. He wasn't a drunkard. He was a family man. He kept his family together and saw that we always had a place to stay and clothes to wear and food to eat. You couldn't ask for more than that. Yeah. So I consider myself, I've been a very fortunate woman. And the little down quirks, I forget about them. Okay, for my oldest son, he'll be, but he was always a headstrong kid. And I could never tell him too much what not to do. Because if he heard the word not, it was like he did it. And sometimes he came out of it good, and sometimes he didn't come out of it so good. But there was not a minute of his life that I didn't love him. He's still alive today, thank God. I haven't lost any of my kids. And I appreciate that from the Lord, because there are a lot of parents have undergone a lot of stuff, you know. I have my youngest son, William. He lost his oldest son through a senseless murder. Somebody shot him in the back, and that's been maybe 3 years ago now, and we've never forgotten that. There's no end to his grief. He was only 19 and had just graduated from Westinghouse High School.
I'm so sorry.
Had a scholarship to some school down in Texas. He was a wrestler. He's good too. So we thought, and he got a wrestling scholarship, and we thought, well, he'll go along great from there, because he loved what he was doing. But his life was taken away, and that was that. But then Lawrence just keeps on keeping on with Lawrence. And my next child, Irma, she calls herself the love child. And she's a wild young weed boy. She lives in Dayton, Ohio, with her 2 children. No, 3 children. She had 2 when she moved there. And she got the 3rd child. And they're all still there in Ohio, and with all her grandkids, Irma. They were all doing pretty good. Okay, William is my youngest son. And he's a happy-go-lucky fellow. He works every day of his life. He graduated from, I used to work at that school too. Oh, Gloria, there's where old age comes in.
It happens to all of us, though.
But he has 3 children, including the one that was dead. That was murdered, I should say. And his youngest is a girl. He had 2 boys and a girl. And they're great kids, that's all I can say. They don't give him any problems much, you know. The girl presented something, but she's calmed down. She used to like to fight. Oh, but she's calmed down the last year or so, and I'm so glad, because I was afraid somebody would hurt her bad, because she was pretty rough. So, and then his youngest son is named after him, William. And he's, I think in Braddock. Anyhow, he's about 10th grade, 9th, 10th grade too. So, and then there's Tiana, that's the little girl that likes to fight. Just thank God she's changed her ways. She makes good grades in school, the A's and B's. She made a D in study hall. I said, give you grades for study hall? Because she wouldn't study in study hall.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So she even changed that grade. So I said, good for you, girl. She should do all right. If she keeps her grades up, she should be able to get into somebody's nice college.
Yeah. That's great.
Okay, and then there's Alice. That's the youngest, the baby you met here. She's, what can I say about Alice? She's a great gal. And frankly, in my old age, I don't know what I would have done without her. We have lived together off and on most all our lives. She moved to Charlotte, North Carolina for a brief period of time. That's when we were separated, the only time. And then when she came down, she got came home. She got a house just like 4 doors down the street from me, so that was really great. She had her place, I had my place, and yet we could communicate. She could even, we'd send her oldest boy, Ross, go down and tell your mother so-and-so. I'd watch him out the window or get on the porch, make sure he got there, you know, or vice versa. She'd send him up, need something. But Alice and I have always been close, and there's no change in it now, you know. Yeah, because she's been here for me when nobody else was there for me. Mm-hmm. And it's been a great blessing to me. When it's funny, when I first realized I was pregnant with her, I cried. I'm like, oh Lord, I was 40, and I did not need a baby at the age of 40. I was getting ready to go back to, I was getting ready to go to Point Park, finish up my education, and that came along, and I felt cheated. But I tell people, once I felt her kick, everything changed, you know. And then there one day she was, and she'd have been a joy ever since. Yeah.
Funny how that happens, huh?
Yeah, it really is. She's, I don't know, well, where would I be now? I'd be in a nursing home or something. I certainly wouldn't be in anybody's home, I don't believe.
Maybe, yeah.
Because my middle daughter's in Ohio, and I don't like Ohio. And the boys, you just can't go live with boys because they've got a wife or a woman, and they might be, I don't want to take care of your mother. I'm not taking care of your mother, you know. It's bad when it's that way, so God gave me her as my blessing. Mm-hmm. With my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and I do have one great-granddaughter, and all I want to try to leave with them is listen. Make sure somewhere down the line when you get to the point where you have to make choices for your life without the advice of your parent or sibling, make sure you take the right choice. Because there are 2 paths and only one is right. And when you make the wrong choice, you share it for the rest of your life. Sometimes you can turn off onto another path, but I don't know about all that. But all I can say is take your time, listen to your parents, listen to someone who's giving you good advice, and be willing to share with them. And most of all, kids, know God. Keep Him in your life, and if you stay on His path, you'll be all right. I've been there all my life since I was 10 years old, and I don't think I've done bad at all. Know how to love and to take care of. If you love, you'll take care of people. If you love, you'll do for people. And if you love, you can't go wrong. Take care of what you know and keep that before you. Most of all, get to know Jesus and let your soul be saved eventually, and that's about it.